Back to my channel. So today I want to talk about SIBO, SIFO, and histamine intolerance. So I talked about my food sensitivity in another video, and I talked about how sugar, high sugar foods and allergens can make, cause a lot of food sensitivities and issues with your stomach. But this is kind of something that deserves its own video and its own discussion because it actually came on later. I very well could have been having symptoms of SIBO and SIFO and histamine intolerance way back when, but I didn't notice it until recently. And this is actually one of my most recent, newest symptoms, if that makes sense. We started with the pelvic pain, which was one of my very first symptoms almost 17 years ago. And now we've come all the way up to this symptom hit me at the end of 2019. So, how did this happen? I believe that the origin of this issue, obviously, I have tons of inflammation. I'm already hypersensitive to everything that I eat, but I was trying to get back on this drug called immune globulin. And my doctor actually got me like a trial to do it. And she said, we're going to do the trial. It was subcutaneous. She said, we're going to do the trial of this specific brand of this drug. I forgot what the brand was, but it was a different brand than I had tried before. She said, we're going to do this. You're going to do it for a couple months. And then from there, I'll deal with your insurance and we'll get you covered so that you can be on this drug because you need to be on this drug. So these injectables, because you're injecting through the skin, they have different ingredients in them. They have stabilizers. And I don't know exactly what the role of these stabilizers are. They stabilize the drug, but I think they also maximize absorption because you're injecting it into your skin and then from your skin, it absorbs into your body. And so I think these other ingredients that are in these drugs, in these liquids, because it's a liquid, I think they just help your body absorb it and not lose some of the drug because obviously if you're absorbing through your skin, you're not going to get the actual dose that's in that bottle. And a lot of these stabilizers are made out of alcohol sugars, if I remember correctly, like dextrose, things like that. There are also IVs of fluids that contain things like that, like dextrose. And again, I think it's just something that helps to maximize the absorption in your body. You will also notice these same alcohol sugars in things like kind of like Gatorade type drinks. So there's those new ones that are like in a little powder packet, and they're like electrolyte drinks, but you just pour them into a cup of water. And if you've ever noticed, they are insanely sweet to the point where they hurt your teeth. That's an alcohol sugar. It's like a dextrose type of sugar. Now, what are these types of sugars? Well, these types of sugars are they're like FODMAPs, and so they actually feed, I believe, your good bacteria in your gut, but then it overgrows, and that can lead to SIBO. So I noticed after like the second or third infusion that I did, I started having like diarrhea or very loose stool. And that is actually a common side effect of alcohol sugars. They can cause diarrhea, bloating, and gas. A lot of sugar-free snacks contain these, so watch out for that at the health food store because they will eliminate regular sugars and put alcohol sugars because they think alcohol sugars don't spike your actual blood sugar. So they're safe for diabetics, but then have all these other side effects. So I began having, this diarrhea during this treatment, and I was just like, okay, there's something going on here because I've been on IVIG before. I actually had it intravenously, and I never had diarrhea. That was not a symptom or a side effect that I had had. So I think I went online into a Facebook group because I belong to a Facebook group of people that are on immune globulin. And right there, I started seeing people, that were sharing the same symptoms, and other people were saying, look, it's this stabilizer that is in this drug. So you're going to need a different drug, a different brand, or a stabilizer free brand. There's only one brand I think that doesn't have a stabilizer that can be administered subcutaneously, and that's the brand that I'm using. So eventually this continued to evolve. I started having eczema on my hand that flared up. I started having back knee, which is acne on your back. I started having really bad back knee. I had never had that before. I've had acne on my face. If you haven't seen that video, go watch my acne journey. It is horrifying. But my back started to look like that. I started to have a lot of acne on my back. I started having bloating and distension. Like I would look at my lower abdomen and it looked like I was, maybe a few months pregnant. Like it was really out there. And I started noticing that I was just like very distended. And I started having nausea like when I would wake up in the morning. So this continued to evolve. And eventually I started having, I guess, what some people would call IBS. I essentially was having intestinal spasms. My intestines started going to spasm because they were so full of bacteria. It just starts to make your intestines spasm. So I was having these painful spasms in my, I think, like upper abdomen. So this occurs in your small intestine. So SIBO is essentially good bacteria that overgrows, I think, into your small intestine, because I believe it's supposed to be in your large intestine only, or most of it's supposed to be there. And it starts to grow, I think, overgrow into your small intestine. And so your body is like, I don't like this, and it starts spasming and freaking out. So I also got a prescription for Bentyl, which is like a muscle relaxer for the intestines. And I had mixed results with it. Sometimes it seemed to help. And then, as just like every other drug that I've tried, over time it would stop working. So I went to I told my doctor, I said, look, I don't know what happened. And this was over the course of several months. I said, I don't know what happened. I said, I think this drug is causing an issue. I said, let's not do this anymore. I said, I'm talking to another doctor right now. I said, let's stop that because I'm feeling like garbage. And I was having bouts of nausea and I was just like, what is going on? So she told me, and I described to her what was going on, and she goes, it sounds like you've got SIBO. And there are tests. There are like breath tests and I think spit tests or something. And there's like different kinds of SIBO. There's like hydrogen SIBO or something. It's a whole thing. You can Google it. She didn't do any of those tests. She's like, you have SIBO. You need to go on this antibiotic and you might be on it indefinitely. So I think she prescribed it. It's called Xifaxan. And it's, at this point, I believe it's the only antibiotic that treats IBS symptoms, which are likely related to SIBO. A lot of people that have IBS likely have SIBO. And so I did it. I did feel better, started feeling better. I wasn't having the intestinal spasms, but I started noticing something different. Like, started noticing discomfort down below. And I was just like, I don't know. I just don't feel right. I feel like, yes, I'm feeling better up here, but I'm feeling worse down at the bottom. And so over time, I started having a different issue. And I still was kind of having loose stools. The diarrhea was like over a year. And it wasn't like watery diarrhea. It was just very, very loose stool. And I didn't realize what it was. I just thought that it was just my new normal. But then I started feeling other discomfort. So if you think about it logically, Xifaxan is an antibiotic that actually kills the good bacteria, because good bacteria overgrows, and that's what SIBO is. So if you're using Xifaxan, you're killing off good bacteria. You're killing off the overgrowth, but you may be killing off just regular growth in the intestine. So when that happens, then you start having an overgrowth of candida, which I've struggled with before. If you've watched my acne video, you will see what candida can do to your body. And so I was like, I'm feeling weird, but in a different way now. And over time, my symptoms changed. I wasn't having so much the intestinal spasms, but I was having like pain right here, like in the upper, like between the rib cage, like a little bit below, I would say like a couple inches above my belly button. And I was just like, what is going on? And again, I was waking up with nausea. And this is over the course of over a year. So eventually I didn't, I went to the doctors. I think she was just tired of it. She was frustrated. She's just like, you're dehydrated. And I went back home and I was like, that's not it. I was like, I have another infection. And I mean, I've gotten to the point over so many years of being sick that I just put the pieces together and I was like, I have candida. I have SIFO, which is small intestinal fungal overgrowth. So you can have SIBO, but you can also have SIFO, where the fungus grows in the small intestine as well. So I was like, okay, the Xifaxan I can't take because that's what caused this in the first place. I eliminated one issue and caused another. And so I had this bottle of caprylic acid that I hadn't used in a long time. Caprylic acid is a natural antibiotic, but it's also an antifungal. And in my mind, I was like, well, I'm killing two birds with one stone here. And that's probably what I should have been doing to begin with. So I started taking it because I was desperate at this point. I was nauseated. I was having the stomach pain. It just, and it was just relentless. I started taking caprylic acid, and lo and behold, the symptoms kind of got under control. Now, it has been a recurring problem since then. That was probably 2018. It has been a recurring issue. But I will, we'll get to that. Obviously, when you have a lot of underlying inflammation, you don't technically solve problems. And that's a running theme in all of these videos of my symptoms. My problems are never solved. I never actually resolve these issues because there's still underlying inflammation. I just am able to remedy it, and I have to keep up with that remedy. So I'm on and off caprylic acid, for months. Now, what does this have to do with histamine? SIBO, I don't know if SIFO is, but I know SIBO is connected to having histamine intolerance. Usually people that have histamine intolerance will see an improvement if they do a SIBO diet. I think both doing the Xifaxan, killing off the SIBO, and then getting SIFO, I think that was kind of the breaking point, and my body just didn't like what was going on. And so at the end of 2019, I was having and if you've seen my oxalate video, I'm not supposed to be eating nuts, any kind of nut. But I was having a few a day. I was like, that shouldn't hurt me. I should be fine with just a few a day, like maybe 4 or 5 or something. And I started making it a habit. And at the end of 2019, I started to notice, and I think at this point I was on IVIG for maybe a year. And I think the diarrhea had calmed down. It took, I think, over a year for the loose stool to stop and for me to start having regular bowel movements. And then also too, the caprylic acid helped with that. But my head started itching like crazy. I mean, it was itching. I mean, insane. I was just like, why is my head itching like this? And of course, your automatic thought is my shampoo, my conditioner. There's something that I'm putting on my head. And I had been using, I can't remember what I was using at the time. I think it's the shampoo that I've been using. Oh, I was using a different kind of shampoo, like a natural shampoo, but it was really strong and it kind of was drying me out. So I was like, that's what it is. So I stopped using it and it just kept itching. I mean, and it's like this intolerable itching, and I didn't want to scratch my head because I was like, there's nothing on my head. I am prone to dandruff. I am prone to eczema, but I wasn't seeing eczema. I have my dandruff shampoo. I was using my dandruff shampoo. And one day my mom, she came up to me. She goes, there's a lot of hair on, on the bathroom floor. And every day she was just like, your hair is everywhere. And then she would vacuum and she's just like, I vacuumed so much of your hair. I wasn't noticing it, but I was losing my hair. And so I was like, no, whatever. My hair was actually really, really long too. Like I don't think I had ever grown my hair that long. So I wasn't putting the pieces together in my head that this itching and the hair loss were related until it really took off. And suddenly, I mean, my hair was literally falling out of my head. I would be sitting down eating and I could just see the strands falling out. It was one of the weirdest things I have ever seen. I would go to the bathroom, I would look at the floor, it was just covered in my hair. And just, I mean, literally, I would be sitting down, and it was like during the summer. So I would have like a tank top on. I could feel the hair touching. I thought it was like bugs. It was just strands of my hair falling and, touching my arm. And I started to see bunches and bunches of hair, especially after I took a shower. And so I was like, my hair's falling out. I lost about 50% of my hair. My sister was getting married that October, and it was August when I started losing my hair like that. I was just freaking out. If you've watched my older videos, I had a ton of hair. If you go way back, I've always had tons and tons of very thick, almost coarse hair. Like the hair underneath was very coarse. Tons of hair. This was one of those blows where I was just like, I mean, I've had acne. If you saw my acne video, that was devastating. And now my hair. I lost about 50%, I would say. And so I went to the doctor and I was like, what is happening? Why is this happening to me? And that's when she brought up histamine intolerance. We did a 24-hour histamine test, which is really gross. You have to basically pee and collect it for 24 hours. And that didn't turn up anything. So she just said, you need to go on a low histamine diet. And I just looked at her like, you've got to be kidding me. I'm on a low oxalate diet, low amylose diet, allergen-free diet. I was on every diet imaginable. I didn't even know that there were more diets that I could do. And now I had to remove histamine. Oh, I was on a low FODMAP diet as well, because when you have SIBO, you have to eliminate FODMAPs. So I had to eliminate a bunch of vegetables, broccoli, asparagus, the few vegetables that I was still eating, I had to eliminate them. So I had already done that, and now I was having to eliminate histamines, which I wasn't supposed to be eating nuts in the first place. So it was kind of easy, I guess, to eliminate that because I wasn't supposed to be eating it anyways. And, tomatoes and stuff, I really wasn't eating either. I mean, I felt like this was the final nail in the coffin, so to speak, because I got to the bare bones of food. And this was when I had already been on IVIG for a year. It took, I think, another year for the hair loss to stop. So I was losing hair for about a year. It fluctuated. I was losing a lot in the beginning, then it slowed down, then it stopped. It stopped. I had 50% of my hair. I still had hair, and it still looked okay. So I was like, you know what? I just need to be happy that it stopped. But I did not expect that I would recuperate my hair. And slowly over the second year, so that was 2019. So in 2020, actually in 2019 it started. 2020 I lost hair. 2021 it stopped, and I started regrowing hair. I did actually start regrowing hair. I have not regrown the hair that I had. I probably have about 75% of the hair that I had. Actually, maybe less, maybe 70%. All you have to do is go back and look at my older videos. But I'm just happy that I have hair. It's hard, especially, for a woman or someone who's vain like I am. It was really tough to see that. And I was really scared that I was going to end up losing a lot more hair. So I did the diet. I did the low histamine diet. My IVIG, I think, also helped. I started to see that, my bowel movements had normalized, and the intestinal spasms had stopped. I was on and off caprylic acid. I continued to be on and off caprylic acid. And I think a lot of that, keeping the dysbiosis, the SIBO and the SIFO under control, stabilized the histamine as well as the low histamine diet. And it kind of calmed the hair loss, and I was able to recoup some of the hair. But that's when I really started to consider stem cells and exosomes because I'm at the bare bones of food. That's it. I have 10 things that I can eat, and I was like, this is it. I have to make a decision because I've been on IVIG for a few years. It has helped me. It's stabilized me somewhat. But if this continues, I don't know how far I can go. And I don't know what is next. I don't know what problem I'm going to have next. So that's SIBO, SIFO, and histamine. They are all interconnected, and if you Google those, if you Google histamine, there I think there's always some kind of discussion of SIBO and SIFO. And I did develop, the SIBO caused back acne, the SIFO caused acne on my stomach, so it causes all kinds of skin issues. As I said in one of my other videos, I increased some of my supplement intake. And that also helped eliminate some of the eczema and calmed some of the stomach issues as well. So it has been quite a journey. But yeah, that's what led me eventually to making the decision to do exosomes because I had to do something. So go check out the exosomes playlist. I will be continually uploading to that playlist over the next few months. But thank you for joining me. If you have any questions, please leave them down below in the comments. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.